Okay, so I promised I'd talk to you guys about my journey and how I ended up writing over $1 million a year in real estate. My career started long before I got into real estate. You see, I started selling when I was just a little kid. My dad left before I was 1. And so my mum was left to raise me on her own. We had this old brown Kingswood, and we used to live in West End, back before it was cool. I hated being called Dan when I was a little kid. My name's Daniel, I used to say. And my mum wanted the best life for me that I could have. And so while I was growing up, she worked 3 jobs. She used to work in the Greenslopes Hospital laundry during the day, and then she'd clean at a TAFE at night, and then every Sunday she had a stall at the Rockley markets. From the time that I could walk, I worked. And I remember every Saturday night I'd spend at home wrapping Lucky Dips, only to then get up at 4 a.m. the next day to go to the markets with her and sell them for $1 each. I spent my childhood growing up at the markets, and that's where I learnt to sell. That's where I learnt to hustle. That's where I learnt to negotiate. And it started out pretty small, like I'd buy fart bombs and firecrackers and then sell them to my mates, for a profit, of course. And then when I got to school, I found this whole new group of customers. I think other people call them friends, but customers. And I'd buy and sell TVs. I'd wash cars for $5. And good luck finding someone to do that now. And I used to every week go up to the CD store and buy the latest CD and come home and burn copies and then sell them at school. And I remember one of my teachers said to me, Dan, you're either going to end up really successful or in jail. And I haven't been to jail yet, so I'm doing something right. But growing up poor taught me a few things. I learnt the value of hard work. And I learnt resilience, that no matter how many times you get hit, you've got to keep getting back up. Growing up poor gave me something else too. It gave me a burning desire to succeed because I wanted more out of life. My mum worked hard so that she could send me to the best school she could because she knew that if I got a good education, I had the best chance at succeeding in life. In my final year of school, we had someone come in and speak to our class. And he said, you can have anything you want in life if you're willing to set goals and work hard. Anything? I thought. And the seed got planted that day. After school, I moved to London. And that's where I saw real money for the first time. Now, I didn't have any of it, but I saw it. And just to give you an idea, there were 8 of us living in a 3-bedroom flat, so you do the maths. But I thought about that guy that spoke to our school, and he had a real estate agency here in Brisbane. And people had always said you should get into real estate. So I sent him an email and I asked him for a job. And it turns out that selling those CDs at school had earned me quite the reputation because he knew who I was and he said yes. So I packed my bags and I moved back to Australia. He taught me to set goals. And he really challenged me to think big. I wrote down, I want a BMW. I want to buy an apartment. I really want to buy my mum a house because we'd rented our whole life. I wanted a nice watch. I wanted a suit like Drew. I wanted to buy a house at the beach. The list went on and on, you get the picture. I was a pretty ambitious 20-year-old. And I was walking to the office one day and I saw the most beautiful figure I'd ever seen. Oh, she had curves in all the right places and a big rear end.
I like big butts and I cannot lie. You other brothers can't deny.
You've got to remember, at the time, I was earning about $35,000 a year. And I was driving an $8,000 Honda Civic. So the idea of spending $250,000 on a car seemed incredibly unrealistic. But I thought, if I can achieve everything else on that list, I'm going to get that car. I started out as a PA, and during that time, I learnt the #1 skill that separates agents that succeed from those that don't. Who can guess what it is? Perseverance. What? Perseverance? No, #1 skill. Josh talked about it. Prospecting. I learnt that by making, you can write this down if you want, I learnt that by making 20 connects a day, I could generate 1 appointment a day. 1 a day meant 5 a week. 5 a week meant 20 a month. And it didn't take me long to learn that if I could get in front of 20 people a month, this is that human connection thing Josh was talking about, that I could generate 2 to 3 listings a month. So 9 months later, I started on my own. And I kept doing exactly the same thing. I made 20 connects a day, and it took me 3 days to get my first listing. Now, despite those stunning green feature walls, I managed to sell it in only 9 days, and I was off and racing. So that was year 1, and I made just over $100,000 GCI. I bought my BMW. The following year, I 3x'd my income. I made $300,000, and I bought an apartment. I kept doing the same thing. It's a pretty simple strategy, just keep doing it. And the following year, I increased my business by 20%, and I bought my mum a house. And it was honestly the proudest moment of my life. And I thought about how blessed I was to be able to do that. And I knew that I wouldn't be in this position if it wasn't for the sacrifice that my mum made. So I went back to my old school. And I started paying the school fees every year for a different family that was struggling financially. Because I thought, if someone did that for my mum, it would have changed her life. Maybe she wouldn't have had to have worked so hard. In 2010, I won the #1 agent in Queensland. I had the biggest year I'd ever had. And I decided, now's the time for me to start my own business. You see, I was tired of doing 100% of the work and getting 50% of the commission. That was also the year that I met my wife. I travelled to Sydney to have dinner with a group of friends. And as I'm getting off the plane, there was this absolute babe getting off the plane just in front of me. And I thought, I've got to go talk to her. I'm the #1 agent in Queensland. I can do what I want. I thought, what am I going to say to her though? And she had this really big bag, and it looked really heavy. And I thought, I don't know, maybe I'll offer to carry it for her. But it was around this time that Chappelle Corby had just been convicted of smuggling drugs. And I thought, what if there's drugs in her bag and I get caught carrying it? So I let her go. And I met my friends at the airport, and they said, we just need to wait for one more person who's also flown in for dinner. Who can guess who it was? Chappelle Mark II. And I married that girl 6 years later. And I'm glad to report that there were no drugs in her bag. I started my business. I knew that I was a good agent, but I was scared. I was scared of leaving the office that I'd built this career in. And so I thought I'll take the easy route. I'm going to start my business working from home. I had a phone, not a home phone, and a laptop, and a website. What more could I need? I thought, if I can make over $350,000 in my first year on my own, during the middle of the GFC, then I've made it. And I'm going to buy myself a Rolex. And so I watch this video every day.
Some may call it an obsession. At Rolex, however, the pursuit of excellence is a passion. Finding the most durable material for its bezels was just one more challenge. The answer? Ceramic. Using an exclusive Rolex patented process, the bezel is superheated to 1,500 degrees, hardening and purifying the ceramic mix. The entire bezel is then bombarded with gold, atom by atom, and polished until only the numerals remain, permanently. Virtually indestructible and impervious to scratches, the ceramic bezel has to withstand more abrasion than any other part of a watch. It takes more than 40 hours to create each of these bezels, which makes you wonder, is any measure too extreme for enduring beauty?
Impervious to scratches. I didn't even know what impervious meant, but I wanted it. In November that year, I hit my target. I remember it was 5:45 p.m. on a Friday night. I walked out of the vendor's house and I rang Rolex. I said, "What time are you open until?" 6 o'clock, they said. So I raced into the city and I got my Rolex. I opened an office, and for the next 5 years, I followed the same strategy, 20 connects a day. And I wrote between $785,000 and $950,000 every year. I bought that house at the beach. I paid off all my properties. I even bought my own plane. But I still wanted more. In fact, the more I got, the more I wanted. It was like an addiction. I wanted to become $1 million agent. And then last year, I cracked it. I wrote $1.2 million. And it was finally time to tick the last box on the list that I'd written 15 years ago. Dreams really do come true, I thought. I was finally getting my Porsche 911. I'd come a long way since that old brown Kingswood. And then a month later, my whole world fell apart. I found myself sitting on the floor in my beach house with my 911 in the garage, crying my eyes out. You see, I had everything I'd ever wanted, but nothing that truly mattered. My marriage was over. I was overweight. And because I was overweight, I had crippling back pain. I nearly didn't come back from that weekend. But I thought, too many people have sacrificed too much for me to give up now. And I thought about that advice I got all those years ago. You can have anything you want in life. And I realised I'm the author of my own book, and I can write the next chapter however I want. I turned on the TV and there was a show about Elon Musk. And I'm watching this 45-year-old billionaire with rockets and sports cars and supermodels. And I thought, oh, his life looks pretty cool. But then I thought, my life probably looks pretty cool too. But right now it sucks. I wonder what his life's really like. And I saw that he's been divorced 3 times. And he never sees his kids. And he works so much that he sleeps on this couch in his office. And then he said something which really resonated with me. He said, "The sound of footsteps echoing through my big empty house isn't lost on me." And I thought, the sound of footsteps echoing in my big empty house isn't lost on me either. And that's when I realised success without fulfilment is the greatest failure. And for the first time in my life, I realised money is not the only answer. I went on a journey of self-discovery and I thought about what really makes me happy. I lost 15 kilos and I'm currently the fittest and healthiest I've ever been. I'm currently training to trek to Everest Base Camp in November this year. I realised that my proudest moments were when I did things for others, not for myself. And that's when I realised the path to happiness is not what we get, but what we give. And in that moment, my whole life changed. I read Nelson Mandela's book, and he said, education's the most powerful weapon in the world. And I realised that I've come so far, but I really owe it to the education that I got. It's like the butterfly effect, where the sacrifice that my mum made meant that I was now in a position to help so many others. I thought it feels really nice being able to help one family every year, but imagine if we could do that for hundreds. Not just in Australia, but all over the world. We could literally change thousands of lives. And that's when I decided that instead of earning $1 million a year, my goal was to give away $1 million a year. How the hell am I going to do that? You can have anything in life if you're willing to set goals and work hard. So I decided that after writing 1.2 million and a lot of money for a lot of years, that I was going to stop selling real estate. Because I needed to grow my company so that we could afford to give away $1 million a year. How the hell am I going to do that? Well, we need to grow. And that means opening more offices, right? So I wrote out this business plan and I realised that running all these offices was the biggest expense of growing. And that's when I discovered something really amazing. Our industry has barely changed in over 180 years. Between 1839 and 1988, most of the real estate brands that we have today started. And they've accumulated quite a number of offices in that time. There's now, on average, 2 real estate offices in every suburb in Australia. And I realised our industry is not in the real estate business, it's in the real estate office business. Why do we need all these offices? In 1991, everything started to change. That's when the World Wide Web got invented. Then realestate.com came along in 95 and Domain in 99, because we need 2 apparently. Until then, the model was completely appropriate. You see, if buyers wanted to find a house, they'd go to the local area and they'd look in all the agency's windows. And a diligent agent would come out, put them in the car and drive them around showing them houses. But now, buyers look online. They find the properties that they're interested in and they meet us there. Sellers don't come into the office either because we go to them, right? And I looked around my own office and the agents were never coming in because they were always out doing deals or meeting people. So I thought, why do we need all these offices? Buyers don't come in, sellers don't come in, and the agents only come in when they need to. The cost of running all these offices on our business plan meant that our agents were losing half their commission for an office that they don't even need. They're not the only ones either. Who used to go to Blockbuster on Friday or Saturday night? Everyone? Obviously it was a good business, right? So why did it fail? Because they didn't change. In the year 2000, Netflix approached Blockbuster for a buyout deal worth $50 million. And Blockbuster basically laughed them out the door and said, no thanks, that system's not going to work. You see, Blockbuster were a bricks and mortar video rental business with over 9,000 retail locations. And if it ain't broke, they thought, why fix it? In 2010, Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy. This is Steve, and he worked for Kodak. And in 1975, he invented the digital camera. And he looks pretty happy about it, right? So he went straight to management and he told them. And they said, that's cute, but don't tell anyone. You see, Kodak at the time had over 26,000 physical film processing outlets. And they thought that's what business that they were in, not the moment capturing business. In 2012, Kodak filed for bankruptcy. Change is definitely scary, and we talked about this right at the start. But I think what's more scary is not changing in a world that's constantly changing, because it means that we're going to get left behind. So, what does the future look like for real estate agents? Do we even have a future in this tech world? I believe real estate agents are the future. So, I decided to tip my business on its head. And we're no longer in the real estate business. We're in the real estate agent business. And we empower our agents to work for themselves, just like I did. I thought about everything I've learnt over the last 15 years. And I thought, offices don't sell houses. You do. All you need are the tools to do it. You need a brand, a website, a laptop, and a phone. And you need the flexibility to be able to work wherever you want. Who's been to the Qantas Club? Or the Virgin Lounge? It's good, right? You can relax, grab a coffee. The coffee's actually decent. I'm a tough critic and the coffee's not bad. You can catch up on emails, do some work before you get your flight. And that's exactly what we're building. A centrally located hub that our agents can use whenever they want. They can come in and work, meet their clients, or attend the weekly training that we put on. And I realised that by not having an office in every suburb, which is where all the expenses go, we could pass on the savings to our agents. And because we're not a franchise, there's no bullshit 7 to 10% coming off the top. So we base our commissions on 100%, and our agents get between 70 and 85%. We had an agent join us, and he was writing about $300,000 a year, which is pretty good, right? It's about double the average in Brisbane right now. But after all the fees came out, he was only getting 135 grand a year before tax. And I bet this looks like most of your pay slips. It's no wonder that the average agent in Queensland only earns $65,000 a year, and 15,000 have dropped out over the last 2 years. Now, Josh said, great, that's great they've gone, but I owe my life to real estate. I wouldn't be where I am today without it, and I want to see all of those 15,000 succeed. So he was $75,000 a year better off with us, and it gets better than that. Because my goal is to help agents double their income by working less. So you don't make the same mistakes I made in pursuit of your goals. And to do that, we've got to work smarter. So I developed a system with everything that I've learned over the last 15 years. A system so simple that when our agents follow it, they can't help but not double their income. And finally, I'm doing all of this because we have the opportunity to give back. To give back to all of those that sacrifice so much for us to be here today. We donate 10% of our profits to our foundation. And together, we have the opportunity to one day be able to afford to give away $1 million a year to help those in need. I'm sharing my journey with you today because I believe my story is your story. Growing up poor gave me a hunger. But it gave me more than that. It made me the person that I am today. The person that doesn't want to see anyone else suffer like I did. That's what drives me now. A burning hunger to see others succeed. I'm here today to tell you, you really can have anything you want in life. But at what cost? Are you working 7 days a week at the expense of doing the things that you love? Are you sacrificing your health in the pursuit of growing your wealth? And are you giving up half your hard-earned income to an outdated model that no longer is necessary? And most importantly, when your time is up, what are you going to be remembered for? I believe that together we can create a better future and make all our mums proud.
Our world wasn't made by remaining the same. We are not a dog. You don't get the bone by obeying stay. We are that generation that conquered adaptation. We moved into the fast lane from dial-up to Wi-Fi to the way we pay. So why would the way we make money stay the same? Here is a solution. We don't need to start again, not calling for a revolution. We just have to know if we don't grow and get out of our comfort zone, then we may dissolve. So it's our time to evolve. Like, why put yourself in a box when you don't need to be? Your office is right there. It's behind that shiny black screen. Yes, it's all changing. And if you don't believe me, walk down your high street. We don't know the name of the bakery. We check out our own groceries and who goes to the library for info. Just like who finds their new home through the estate agent's window. Don't get stuck in the trap. Let's not be the taxi man who was overtaken by the app. We are smarter than that. So I say change is great. It's taking charge of our fate. We are proactive to be adaptive, not reactive, because when you react, you do it with fear. When you see that wave, you should take the wheel of your ship and steer. So let's take on that change. Let's ride that wave. Don't go under it, face it, race for it, and embrace it. It's change. And it's not happening tomorrow. It's happening today. Thanks for listening. I just want to, before we wrap up,
just give a massive thank you to all of you guys for coming today. I want to give a thank you to our sponsors who have been flashing through on the screen. Coco Republic, who styled our stage beautifully. There's a copywriting company that you'll see their brand flashing up there. There's a company you can outsource your social media to if you're interested. Photography business as well, the best one that I've used for probably 10 or more years. And I also want to thank my team because they've done an amazing job putting today together. So massive round of applause.